Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is your girl Tiffany, aka Madam Luscious Black Beauty, your poetic psychic Pisces High Priestess, aka Diamond. I am here for another one of my murderous, missing persons murder mysteries. I guess you could call this. Of course, as I have stated before, for as long as I am a targeted individual of the United States government, then I am making it my business to be very vocal about some documented facts of things that have gone on in our history that seemingly the United States government has done nothing about, have completely covered up. And as I've said before, I find it very hard to believe that they fund the operations for, they run, rule, control these psychological operations on citizens to stalk and harass us, invade and violate our privacy, our human rights, and our civil and constitutional rights, and so many more things. Yet, when it comes to these endless murders that are happening every single day, when it comes to the murder of children, the missing children, they seemingly can't do anything about it. So, for as long as I am a targeted individual, that's how long I am going to do whatever I can to stress this issue and make people fully aware of what is happening in the United States of America, because many of these situations, what I have found is that your United States government is behind it. So tonight, what I am going to be discussing with you are the Atlanta child murders and missing children. Now, this is although there has been several things that have taken place in history in the United States of America, well before the time of this incident that took place, as well as all the way up to now. There are countless numbers of children who are murdered and who vanish and go missing every single day. I have told you all before, there are like 800,000 children who seemingly just vanish, goes missing, never to be seen or heard from ever again. And that's not even counting the number of children who are killed every single year. Your United States government is not being held accountable for these things that are taking place. However, you got so many people in the world who are high up in power, who proclaim to be very smart and very knowledgeable and all-seeing and all-knowing. I mean, you got your witches, you got your Satanists, you got your elites, you got your high powers that be, yet nobody can tell you anything when it comes to the countless numbers of missing persons and children whom are being murdered in cold blood. So that's what we are talking about tonight, the Atlanta child murders and missing children. Now, this supposedly took place between 1979 and 1981. There was a lot of different things that took place with this situation, but trust me when I tell you there is a major cover up that went along with this. So this is what I'm going to be getting into on tonight. So I'm just going to start off by saying by the end of 1980, 11 children, these are African American children, had been found dead, mostly in the river, abandoned buildings, and as well as vacant lots. These children were beaten, they were raped, and several of them were missing organs as well, okay? More than double that amount had been found not more than double the amount that were found dead were missing. So, if in 1980 in Atlanta they had a total of 11 children around the same time that they found dead, you can seemingly say about 22 children they had that had been reported as missing, and they had never been seen or heard from ever again. In October of 1980, a daycare for black kids was blown up. This daycare blew up into pieces. There were several people who were hurt. There were several people who were killed. Many were injured. So several children died. A couple of adults who were working in the child care center. This predominantly, or it really was an all-black kids child care blew up. Okay. And this was believed to have been done by the Klansmen, which is the KKK, or other words, the Ku Klux Klan. 17 hours after that occurred at that child care center, there was a church that was blown up with children in it as well. I do want to state at this point, I find it very appalling that we have documented history, documented fact of just how many crimes that Klansmen have committed against African American people, yet you have never in history heard of one Klansman going to prison, being indicted, charges being brought up against you. You've never heard of Klansmen being in court, facing charges for anything that they have done, and we literally have history-long documentation of them throwing firebombs into people's house, setting people's houses and churches on fire, setting people's businesses on fire. They have hanged African American people. They have lynched African American people. They have hog-tied African American people to the backs of vehicles and drugged them alive. They have raped and tortured and beat many African American people, and not one Klansman has ever been charged with a crime ever in history. And these are documented facts that we have, that these things were done by Klansmen. But do you know why they were never prosecuted? Because your Klansmen made up very supposed prominent people in society. Your Klansmen were judges, they were lawyers, they were policemen, they were firemen, they were reverends and deacons and pastors and preachers. These people were politicians. All of these individuals were Klansmen, okay? And this is the very reason why that there was government cover-ups and that they were never charged with any crimes that they have ever done to African American people, ever. But ask yourself, would it have been that same way if African American people had attacked Caucasian people that way, or any race of people that way? No, we would have been killed on the spot. But it is a matter of fact that Klansmen have never, ever been charged with any of the crimes that they have committed against African American people, and your government covered it up. So that just lets you know just how low down and dirty the United States government is. However, the 12th known victim of the Atlanta child murders was Clifford Jones. He was a 13-year-old African-American boy who went missing while running errands for his mother. He was found the next day. He had been beaten, sodomized, raped, and strangled. By Christmas of 1980, 5 more African American boys were gone, each of them raped, sodomized, and strangled. By 1981, during the spring, there were 20 unsolved murders. Okay? 6 more boys were added to the 20 already found dead. Atlanta being marked the kitty killing capital. The body count kept rising, however, after that time. That is until 22-year-old Wayne Williams was spotted by the Chattahoochee River on May 22nd. When he was approached by police officers, he was found to have a flashlight, some rope, and blood that was present on the seat of his car. FBI was later called in because this case had grown so largely. There were so many black children that were coming up missing, as well as so many African American children that were being found dead as well. The FBI let Wayne Williams go after they approached him that day at the Chattahoochee River. Okay, they watched him, and they also described him as being this soft-spoken, feminine black male. Okay, they continued looking into his background. They put a tail on him to continue watching him, although he denied having any involvement in the kidnappings and the murders of these African American children. Remind you also that Wayne Williams is an African American man. However, the FBI claimed that he had connections to the kids and that had been taken and that had been murdered, because he claimed to be some big time record producer, and he was holding auditions for the neighborhood kids, and even a couple of the children who went missing. He obviously, some of those kids must have had some kind of auditions with him, they're claiming, and then they later ended up dead. He also was said to host talent shows for these kids as well. He was spotted several times, they said, passing out flyers and pamphlets in the parks, at children's centers, like community centers or something like that. He would go there and ask the adults there to supposedly pass out these pamphlets that were advertising talent shows that he was putting on. And supposedly he was saying that, you know, the most talented ones in these talent shows, if they won, that he would get them in connection with, you know, bigger people in power that could help them succeed in whatever talent it was that they were said to have had. Authorities also claim that Wayne Williams was a gay man, and he often hung out at local gay bars around town. Wayne Williams was said to still live with his parents, and it was also alleged that he would regularly get into fights with his mom as well as his dad. He was also alleged to have abused them at times for something. Supposedly his parents were funding his supposed business adventures. Claims were also made later that he slapped his mom, he punched his dad when they wouldn't give him enough money. Those things are alleged. Who knows where they got that information from? Police then found a naked, bloated body of a well-known homosexual African-American man named Nathan Keda. He was an adult male, though, okay? He was found in the Chattahoochee River, and just going back real quick, on the day that they spotted Wayne Williams by the Chattahoochee River, they had put they had FBI there, and they was doing surveillance all around and things like that. And since a lot of the bodies had been found in the river, they had a lot of people, different things set up around the river, around the bridge, and different things like that. So they claim to have heard over their radio this big splash, which they investigated what that splash into the water was, and then that's when they supposedly found Wayne Williams out there, and they questioned him and they searched his car, and they found those things that I was telling you about. Well, later after that, there was this adult male who was a well-known homosexual in the area, and his name was Nathan, I think I'm pronouncing this right, Keda, and he was in the Chattahoochee River, okay, in the same place that the cops claim to have previously spotted Wayne Williams. They then pinned the murder of him on Wayne. So the murder of Nathan, they then claimed that they had enough evidence to try to charge him with that murder because they had seen him at the Chattahoochee River, and then later this body surfaced, and then right before that, They heard the splash in the water, so they connected that murder of Nathan to Wayne Williams. So on the 3rd of June, okay, you got your 3-6 there. The 3rd of June, the cops brung Wayne Williams in for questioning. He was very cool, calm, and collect about it. He denied everything. He denied having anything to do with the missing children, the murders of the children. He also denied having any involvement in the murder of the adult male that they found in the river, Nathan. But later, supposedly, a co-worker of his told police that he had seen Wayne and the victim Nathan at the movies and they were holding hands together. Frankly, I kind of feel like he was a paid informant to say that, because they were itching, they were looking to pin these things on somebody, because they had started taking a lot of heat for what was going on, and questions were being asked, and they wasn't asking any questions. But just listen, you guys, because this thing gets juicier as it goes. Okay, so the co-worker came forward, told police that he had spotted Wayne and the victim Nathan at the movies. They were holding hands together. So the police used this and basically saying that Wayne had lied to to them, and that he did know Nathan, and they used this as their smoking gun to say, you knew Nathan, you responded together at the movies, you must have been lovers because you were seen holding hands with him, and different things like that. And after that, they arrested Wayne Williams, okay, under the suspicion of being connected to Nathan's murder. However, after they arrested Wayne Williams, the bodies just kept on popping up around town and different places and everything, and this was after the time that they had arrested him, okay? So I'm going to say this: there was no DNA evidence that ever linked Wayne Williams to the murders of the missing children, or there was no DNA evidence that was ever linked to the child murders or the missing children. Of course, the missing children, they had no evidence to compare to them because they were missing. However, the children that they had found dead, they had no known evidence that could link Wayne Williams to those murders, okay? The prosecutor's case was basically circumstantial at best, okay? The police also added another murder to Wayne Williams, okay? This was a victim by the name of John Porter, who was also an African American man. John Porter was not homosexual. However, they pinned the murder of John Porter to Wayne Williams because, remember, I told you they had found some blood on one of the seats of his cars. Well, John Porter had been stabbed in Midtown Atlanta in around 1981. And the police claimed that the blood that they found in Wayne Williams' car on the seat belonged to the victim, John Porter. So this is the reason why they linked the murder of him to Wayne Williams as well. Okay. However, the FBI planted evidence. They totally botched this. They planted evidence. They made it up in their minds that they were going to try to pin all of these murders on Wayne Williams, okay? So the FBI planted evidence and they charged Wayne Williams with the murders of the 2 adult victims. No evidence was ever found linking him to the Atlanta child murders. Remind you, okay? So later, speculations were being made. They had a family dog, and there was some type of carpet in the home that he lived in with his parents. Do you know that the prosecution used dog hairs and hairs from a carpet to try to pin the murders to this man? Now, they claim that the bodies that they found were in the river. Anybody know that a body that has been in the river, submerged in the river for a long period of time, most of your evidence is going to float away. However, the police claimed that they found not only the dog hairs, which matched the dog hairs of Wayne Williams' family pet, as well as the carpet hairs from the carpet at his house on these people's bodies. They literally planted evidence and they set this man up. Okay? Also, there's a lot of things that Atlanta is very prominent about. Okay, there is basically said that it was no secret that in the Atlanta ghetto, the Atlanta ghetto had a major secret. There was a pedophile ring that was operated from the mid 1970s to the late 1980s. Now, this pedophile ring was in operation throughout the time that all of these children were coming up missing, all of these children were coming up dead, and they were seemingly trying to put all of this on Wayne Williams. However, the leader of this pedophile ring was an African American man named Tom Terrell. He went by Uncle Tom Terrell. I guess everybody around town in the neighborhood called him Uncle Tom Terrell. He was the pedophile ring leader, and he was also involved in child trafficking. And he also had been a convicted pedophile. Now, listen, you all, because this is where it gets real crazy, okay? Now, this man's home was known around town as Uncle Tom's Cabin. And he was said to have regularly held pedophile parties, which was in where his house was, where he called Uncle Tom's, which he called the Uncle Tom's Cabin. This was in an area where a lot of the children were last seen. A lot of the children that had went missing, they were last seen around that area that was around his house. That he was a well-known ring leader for sex trafficking. He also had been convicted for supposedly pedophilia. Okay, but it is also said that this Tom Terrell individual, he had police and officials in his pocket. What I believe happened is after he was convicted as being a pedophile and he did whatever time and he was released, at some point in time he was recruited. They have these different, they have scouts for all kinds of things. Little do a lot of people know. He was recruited at some time, just like how they recruit their handlers, they recruit their gang stalkers and different peoples like that, for just like they recruit crisis actors, and they recruit all kinds of people for different things, for staged events, for all kinds of things. At some point in time, I believe that this Tom Terrell was recruited because this man was not only the ring leader of this pedophile ring, he was also involved in the child trafficking, and like I said, he was a convicted pedophile as well. Well, and this was no secret in Atlanta's ghetto. Okay, so this was being operated, this was being run by him from the mid 70s to the late 80s, and it was well known. Well, it is said that Tom Terrell had police and government officials in his pocket, so after his release, he was never under suspicion again for anything, because he was linked up with these powers that be, with police officers, with government officials, and he was said to, it was like no secret that the police and the government officials that he had in his pocket had also attended these child sex parties that he was throwing in his house, you all, okay? So he would throw these child sex parties, and there were several police officers as well as other government officials who were attending these parties, okay, and allowed him to operate this child trafficking, child sex ring, okay? So this Uncle Tom Terrell guy, he was often heard bragging that none of his secrets would ever come back to bite him in the ass, because that all of his secrets, meaning all of his victims, were at the bottom of the river. This is what he was heard bragging about, and this is the Uncle Tom Terrell guy. Okay, but Terrell died in late 1989. And he seemingly took his dirty little secrets with him. I kind of thought that that maybe he was killed to be silenced, because, but after that, when I got further clarification, I did a reading about this as well. When I got further clarification about it, he actually died of natural causes. I believe, because it wouldn't make sense for him to rat on even the government officials that he knew that would come to his parties and be involved, because he was essentially be telling on himself as well. So that just didn't make sense. So I believe that he was recruited long ago, and he was running this whole child sex operation, and those that was into that type of thing, they partook in that, they were involved in that, and he got paid for supplying many children to people in that time. Also, I want to say that there were speculations about a lot of things, so I brought him up because like I said, there was basically three different main speculations that was put in to these Atlanta child murders and the missing children. One being how the KKK was operating back then, and how they had a lot to do with a lot of the killings of African American people that was going on then, because a police officer was sent in as a plant in the KKK as an informant, and he was going back and saying that the Klansmen were planning to kill up a bunch of African American children, and then that explosion happened at the daycare, and then that other explosion happened at the church. So they were involved in a lot of things that were going on back then, but it was also covered up. There's more to that. The second thing, speculation, was this Uncle Tom Terrell person, because he was the head child sex ring leader, and it wasn't a secret in Atlanta that this was going on, and that he operated it, and that officials in power were involvement with those things that was going on. The third thing that was speculated on, because some of the victims that came up missing, the fact that they were missing their organs, organ harvesting came up. And for the victims that were found missing without their organs, it was speculated that this was because of organ harvesting. So the murders that happened to them, the things that happened to them, and there were some victims that were not just missing their organs, which these organs would have been sold on the black market. Like, this is still going on today. There are several other cases, like recent cases, that have happened in history where these people have been found dead and they're missing their organs. Like, this is what they were going to do to Kanika Jenkins. That's the reason why, what happened to her, reason why she was found in the freezer, to preserve her body so they could come back and take her organs. The boy that was killed at his high school that played basketball, he was rolled up in the carpet and thrown out back by the dumpster. He didn't have his organs in his body either. Like, so there's been several recent cases where people that have come up dead and they have been missing their organs and things, and these organs are sold on the black market. Also, I'm going to tell you another thing about the Kanika Jenkins case. The owner of the hotel, the Crown Plaza Hotel that she was in, that all of this went down, the owner of that hotel owned a warehouse. This man had been busted for the black market sales of human beings' body parts as well as organs. He had been busted several times for that before that situation happened about Kanika Jenkins. That's the owner of that Crown Plaza Hotel in Chicago. So, I mean, like, this stuff goes on. That's the reason why I know that it was some other things that happened. The other stuff that happened to Kanika Jenkins, it was all set up. That girl was brutally raped and beaten, all kinds of stuff or whatever. But it was a setup. She was drugged too. It was all a setup to ultimately take her organs later. They wanted her organs, and like ritualistic things was done with her body parts. Like it was that situation was crazy. I may do a reading on about that later. But if you look into the owner of that hotel, he had been busted a couple times for selling. He had a warehouse where he was housing human body parts and he was selling them on the black market. That's a fact, guys. Nevertheless, back to this story. Like I said, it was speculation about organ harvesting because quite a few of the victims were missing their organs. But what I was getting ready to say, not only were they missing their organs, some of them were missing their eyeballs and like just weird body parts like that. So there was a lot that like literally went into this. Nevertheless, a lot of people that know anything about organ harvesting, it is very real. It is as real as sex trafficking, human trafficking, organ harvesting. Like these things are real and they take place all the time, especially if you look at the satanic calendar around the times when they are doing rituals around certain dates, certain moons and different things. These things go on all the time, guys, okay? Nevertheless, Wayne Williams was convicted by jury on January the 6th, 1982. He was given 2 life sentences. Now, I'm going to tell you what I found wrong with this. This man was given 2 life sentences, but remind you, they never had any information or enough information to charge him with the Atlanta child murders or the Atlanta children that went missing. The only thing they were able to charge him with was the murders of those 2 adults, which was the John Porter and the Nathan Ketu. Those were the only 2 guys that they were really able to link him to and convict him of those 2 crimes. Yet they gave him 2 life sentences. They later basically tried to link him to 27 of the child murders. However, they never came up with any evidence to claim. They just basically claimed that he was responsible for 27 of the child murders, but he was never convicted for that. Basically, they planted evidence. They railroaded this man in a court of law. They set him up. I do know for a fact that the 2 adult men that he did kill, but this man was set up. He was used as a patsy for the murders of those children and for those missing children. He had nothing to do with that. And like I said, he was convicted for dog hair and carpet fibers alone. This dog hair and these carpet fibers, y'all, they did not find them on the child victims. They claimed that they found that evidence on the man, the Nathan Ketu, that they found the body in the river. They claimed that they found that evidence on him, and that's how they linked that murder to Wayne Williams. They claimed, and then the person that came forward saying that he had seen them together at the movies holding hands. The reason that he was connected to the John Porter murder is because the blood, the B-type blood that they found in his car in the seat was the same match as the John Porter guy. So they had physical evidence to put those 2 murders on him, but they never had any evidence to put those the Atlanta child murders or the missing children on him. Okay, and in fact, a lot of the parents did not believe that he had anything to do with their children going missing or coming up dead. They later tried to protest to get him out, and what they felt and what they thought was basically ignored. So like I said, they convicted him for the dog hair and the carpet fibers alone, which authorities used to try to link 27 of the child murders to him. However, they never had any physical evidence to do so. Thus, he was never really charged for the murders of those children. He was only charged for the murders of the 2 adult men. But ask yourself, why? You know that he was set up, and you know that he was railroaded, because who in the hell gets 2 life sentences for 2 murders? That was not capital murder. That was not premeditated murders. Okay? So they literally set him up, and they did this also. I want to say they did this because smack dab in the middle of the case, it was none other than President Bush who basically forced the FBI to hurry up and close this case up. He basically forced the FBI to set up Wayne Williams. And the FBI did so by President Bush Sr.'s orders. Okay, so that is matter of fact on that as well. So this man was railroaded. He was set up. They set this man up, and he was used as a patsy and they covered up what happened to the murders of those children and who was really responsible and behind it. So that's basically the overall view of that story of Wayne Williams. I did do a spirit reading for this to give you further clarification, to give you direct answers from spirit about this case, and the damning information that I got that goes along with everything that I just told you. Everything that I just talked to you about is actual. These are the facts of the case, of everything that happened. And I'm also going to show you all something here in just a minute, but I did do a spirit reading for this. Okay, so I tell you what, I'm going to let you all see this, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the spirit reading for you. Okay?
Let me tell you, we have here a tragedy of the worst kind. There is no evidence at this point that can be confirmed.
It's 11 o'clock and there's a curfew in Atlanta. Do you know where your children are?
We do believe that the young boy is one of the 3 missing children.
It were 40 years ago, give or take a few months and a day, the black kids started disappearing off these streets, or ghettos, if you will, like retards learning to swim at the Niagara Falls. And a lot of folks figured the cops paid no never mind, cause the color of their skin. But me, I've always said that God were the most inconsiderate to the poor. But who can say? I ain't one to judge, cause judging ain't my business. By the end of 1980, 11 kids had been found dead, and twice as many were missing. The bodies, mostly found in the river or abandoned buildings and vacant lots, were in various states. Beaten, raped, some of them had their organs missing, and with the press not saying much, people were coming to their own conclusion. Organ harvesters, pedophile rings that were shopping the order and through the poor interdepartmental communications. Cops just didn't seem that interested. And we're in October of 1980 when a daycare for black kids blew up. And it caused the city to go into a panic.
I don't have shit. Just a few moments ago, one of the police officers says he still thinks that there may be another child still trapped inside there. But again, we definitely know 4 children have been killed, 1 adult. Many, many more have been injured. There were and hundreds of parents and relatives hysterical, not knowing whether their children were alive or not.
And the city just beginning to heal from the assassination of Martin Luther King. Some of the citizens weren't so eager to buy the shit that the cops were shoveling, and naturally, they wanted answers, not fancy pants talk.
Well, after sifting through what evidence we could find, that all indications point to the fact that it occurred in the boiler area where the building is steam heated, and it occurred in that area.
What kind of evidence would you need if you thought it was a bomb that exploded?
Well, we'd have to see parts of the bomb, the type of explosive it made, whether it went out, in, up, or down.
First of all, let me tell you, we have here a tragedy of the worst kind. There is no evidence at this point that can be confirmed that there was anything other than an accident. In other words, the only evidence we have at this time indicates, based on what our fire and police officials have told us, the only evidence we have at this time indicates that this was an accident. Just a minute. Hold it, listen. Now.
The poor folk of Atlanta had heard about accidents before,
There are rumors all
so they weren't so easily convinced.
Can you tell me what you saw this morning?
It was about 4. I was right up here on Silver Street, and we seen about 4. Well, I seen 2, but it was 3 or 4. It was in the white Plymouth.
3 or 4 what?
White dudes. And one was on the building, and one was at the door, and one was around here. So we know what they was up to.
What were they up to?
I don't know. I know they were down here.
Why didn't you? Did you go up to them and ask them what they were doing?
No, I did not.
And it was about 3 in the morning.
About 4 years around about this time.
Several witnesses of varying credibility claimed to have seen a vehicle full of white men at 3 a.m. at the daycare center on the morning of the explosion. But it was when a police informant planted inside the Klan came forward and said that they were planning to bomb a school or a church. Cops were terrified. After all, they were only 2 hours down the road, 17 years earlier, that they blew up a church full of kids. So one unheard of. It won't beyond imagination that the KKK could be acting as provocateurs, because although they wore dresses, they weren't a bunch of girl guides. And if they were, I wouldn't want to buy their cookies, because they probably wouldn't have chocolate. They were with every new kid that went missing that the government fell further into public scrutiny.
I would like to know why so many black kids have, had to die before anyone got really interested in, solving, wondering what happened to them, I mean, a bunch of them died before anyone got interested, just because they're black kids.
From our perspective, we became concerned when we had the death of the first black child. Anytime there's a child or any person lose their life, it's a very serious matter. We have devoted, even before establishing our special task force, literally...
Unbeknownst to the public, the special task force consisted of 5 members. The 12th known victim in the Atlanta murders was 13-year-old Clifford Jones, who went missing while running an errand and was found the next day, beaten sodomized, strangled. You get the
I
idea?
didn't know there was nobody around here killing no black kids. If I had known that, I'd never let Clifford out the house.
Due to pressures from local businesses and community, the police increased their task force from 5 to 25, pushing police budgets to a breaking point. And despite all the warnings, black kids were still out playing on the streets. At Christmas 1980, 5 more boys were gone, with each of them ass fucked and strangled. And by the spring of 1981, there were 20 unsolved murders. It would then that the government and local authorities must have got fed up, because they put up a reward for $25,000, hoping that a little cash infusion might improve people's eyesight and their memories.
Somebody somewhere out there knows what we're looking for, knows who's doing this insane series of acts and attacks on our children. $100,000 will shake that information loose.
And then to up the ante, boxing hero and local legend Muhammad Ali increased the reward to $400,000. With massive numbers of volunteers searching from door to door, the city even hired a psychic who ended up forgetting where she parked. But it was when the president sent 200 FBI agents to Atlanta. That's when the heat really were turned up. Police interviewed 20,000 people in person and 150,000 over the phone. Vice President George Bush got involved, announcing over $1.5 million in federal aid. That's why I love Bush.
We hope that this infusion of federal assistance will end the suffering for
That
the
bastard
families,
is a lie.
the trauma for this city, and indeed the trauma for the entire country, because, as I say, it's national.
And with Atlanta's convention and tourist dollars now being affected, and billion-dollar companies canceling contracts, there were more than just black kids being fucked. There were now the corporations. And corporations tend to enjoy fucking people, getting fucked less so. So they threatened to take away their sponsorship deals and funding unless the cops found someone guilty. ASAP, authorities put on a curfew for any black kid under 15.
Have fun, have a good time, but...
No, they was just in a hurry at that point to try to pin it on somebody. But none of theirs, of course. You have to pin it on a nigga.
Stay safe.
And he forgot to mention have a Coke. So the corporate entities did their part, creating a kids club, opening the pools and the youth clubs for free, keeping the kids off the street. And on the first day, over 8,000 kids had joined. But the FBI profilers knew that wasn't going to be enough, because whoever killing these kids, they now had a taste for ass pussy. And once you got the taste, you got the hunger. And I guess if to prove that point, 6 more boys disappeared off the streets to add to the 20 already laying in the morgue. And Atlanta will now getting press all over the world as the kitty killing capital. While local cops believed that the killer were white, FBI profilers figured that whoever were going out ass pussy shopping were black, moving.
No, the FBI was sent in by President Bush Sr., sorry ass. And of course, their profile of the suspect that was raping and torturing and killing black kids was, of course, that he was black. Because no white people rape anybody, huh? Especially no Klansmen, which is exactly what they're getting ready to say.
Within the community, unnoticed. And yeah, at first, they thought it might be the Klan. But then the ass fucking thing seemed to go against their credo. Yeah, sure, they ass fucked, but only other white dudes, not black kids. So now to make things even worse.
Do you hear that? The FBI claimed that they ruled out the KKK as doing this, which we know that they were clearly involved in a lot of things, but their reason for clearing the KKK for doing this, because as this guy said, excuse my language, they didn't do no ass fucking of black kids. Yeah, sure, white guys, but no black kids. Come on now. Who in the hell says something so dumb?
It were a fractured investigation, with the local authorities believing it were the Klan, and the FBI believing it were a black man, an enemy within. But while they were debating it, the body count kept rising. Hiya, baby.
Funeral services were held today for 15-year-old Joseph Bell, the 24th victim in Atlanta's child slayings. And as Bruce Hall reports,
there was the Jackson Parkway Bridge over the Chattahoochee River that FBI believed were a key location because they figured that over half the bodies had been dumped there because none were found upstream. They were in the early hours of May 22nd. The police on surveillance heard a loud splash. And when they investigated, they found a car parked near the bridge. And inside that vehicle were a 22-year-old Negro named Wayne Williams. And inside that vehicle were a flashlight, some rope, and blood on the seat. But FBI let him go, because they knew they now had themselves a possum. And if they followed that possum, he'll lead them back to the den, describing him as a soft-spoken, feminine Negro, looking into his background, sticking a tail on him. And although he had denied any involvement in the abduction and the killing, the FBI discovered that Williams had more than a few breadcrumbs leading to the murdered and missing kids, telling everyone that he were a hotshot record producer, regularly holding auditions for the neighborhood kids. Even a couple of the ones who'd ended up dead and often had been spotted at the joints that the kids had hung out at. And the come on the homo cookie were that he were also a gay and he were a regular at many of their known hotspots in the area. And when the FBI grilled his neighbors, they said that Williams still lived with his parents, who he had regularly gotten into fights with, the ones who sponsored his failing business ventures, and had witnessed him smacking his mother and punching his dad for not giving him enough money, and looking to link Williams to as many of the children as possible. They discovered that he were regularly handing out pamphlets for make-believe talent shows that he were throwing in the playgrounds and local sports centers. A regular cocksucking Simon Cowell.
Yes, he came to the office and asked us to distribute literature and to recruit kids for his talent show. And that he was a talent scout, and he would be helping to develop their talent and put them in contact with the major companies and so forth.
And I guess if the definition of developing talent
he's a paid informant,
strangling, fucking, and then disregarding the bodies,
I can tell.
Then Wayne Williams were one hell of a talent developer. Fucking A. But it was when police found the naked, bloated body of well-known homosexual Nathan Cater floating down the Chattahoochee River, dripping cum out of his ass, in the same place that the cops heard a splash. Well, they knew that Williams were their man, or at least half a man. And on the 3rd of June, FBI agents brought him in for questioning, but Wayne Williams weren't gonna break. He were as cool as a cucumber. A murdering pedophile cucumber, if FBI agents are to be believed. And he wasn't shy of the press. He even gave him an interview, as long as they didn't show his face.
They openly said, "You killed Nathaniel Cater, and you know it, and you lying to us." They said that. And they said it on a number of occasions.
But Williams' arrogance was to be his downfall. Because a week later, when sitting down, eating a TV dinner, one of Nathaniel Cater's co-workers recognized Williams, saying
Another
that he'd
paid
seen them both
informant.
at the movies holding hands on the night that Cater went for a skinny dip. Oh, isn't that sweet? And it was then that they arrested the superstar record producer for the murder of Nathaniel Cater.
Such an advanced state of decomposition, it's impossible to say.
He killed the two guys, but he didn't kill those kids. They set him up for that.
County authorities say they finally think they know the identity of that second body.
They used him as a patsy.
And after Williams' arrest, yeah, sure, the bodies kept popping up due to decomposition and gases and whatnot, but the murders stopped. Easy peasy, Japanesey, one may lyrically wax. But unfortunately, the prosecutor...
The thing with that is, first of all, remember when they first arrested him, the bodies were still popping up? Okay. Well, then when they was able to pin the second murder on him, these were the two adult guys. Remember I told you that they were able to pin the crime on? Well, they claim after they had went on and decided to prosecute him for both murders and everything, that the murders stopped. So what happened is when the elites involved found them a patsy. They knew that they had him on the 2 murders for the adult guys that they found dead. So they were going to pin these other killings on him. They had found them a patsy. So that's what they did. And so in doing so, it seemingly seemed like that they stopped. The child killings and the child abductions stopped. But they really didn't. They just slowed it down around his conviction and his case and everything to make everybody believe that he was the one who was responsible for all them. They just moved on to a different area and kept doing the same thing. Because I'm telling you, they set that man up for those child murders and those missing children. He did not do those. He did kill those 2 adult men. The one guy that was the homosexual, and the other guy that they found dead, that they had the evidence on. They had no evidence linking him to him being involved in killing those kids, though. They set him up for that. They just found him a patsy, and they set him up for that. And President Bush Sr. was responsible for that, and his FBI goon sellouts that he sent in to cover up everything that was going on, including what was being done by the Klansmen down there. That's what happened.
Cuda, when they were putting the facts together, not everything was fitting into place.
See?
Because the spot of blood that they found in Williams' car, well, that didn't match any of the murder victims. And if Wayne Williams was this prolific pedophile, why were 2 of the victims girls? And the last one a man? Didn't make sense for someone who liked ass pussy so much to be swishing back and forth. And it came right out of the FBI's rule book that ass pussy pedophiles weren't interested in just plain pussy. And to make matters worse, the FBI still had a nagging doubt about that Klan informer, coming forward with some pretty solid evidence that the Klan had murdered, or at least been planning, to kill at least 20 young black kids. And if the Klan had been killing black kids, where were they? Or had they already been found? The case were messier than a retard eating SpaghettiOs with a leaf blower, and they knew it. But the political pressure was now too great for them to turn back.
They covered up for them Klansmen.
President Ronnie Reagan patting them on the back, telling them they were super agents. And how the fuck are you gonna tell Ronnie that you were wrong? And after all, they were pretty sure that Williams killed someone, and they knew they were a homo. What the fuck else do you want? It was because the prosecution couldn't directly link Williams to any of the dead children. The case was going to come down to pure speculation and the fact that Williams was spotted with Nathaniel Cater on the night he went for a swim. And the prosecutor's argument was that they had found carpet fibers in the Williams home at several of the crime scenes, including near the body of Clifford Jones, and that the green trilobal fiber were very rare and could have only been found in a handful of locations. That main roadblock were the type B speck of blood that they found on the front seat of Williams' car matched none of the murder victims, leaving the FBI and prosecutors no choice but to add another victim to Wayne Williams' body count, and to 28-year-old John Porter, who had been stabbed in Midtown Atlanta in 1981, whose blood type matched the blood found in the front seat of Wayne Williams' car. And although no logical link between the 2 men, and Porter isn't even a homosexual, the FBI want us to believe that they found carpet fiber from Williams' home on Porter's body. And remarkably, digging through all that soot and mud in that filthy fucking river, forensics was still able to find dog hair consistent with the Williams family dog Sheba. What makes this find even more astounding was that the dog hairs were found on Nathan Cater's nude body floating in the river. So where were the hairs? Up his ass? You kinda get the feeling here that the FBI, bowing to corporate governmental pressures, wanted to solve all the murders in one go.
So they set him up.
Wayne Williams were a poster boy for creepy, and he definitely killed someone. He were either a pedophile killer or a homo killer, but it's hard to believe that he were both. But that's what the district attorney wanted us to believe the moment a jury handed Williams 2 life sentences for the murder of 2 adult men.
With the conviction of Wayne Williams,
They gave that man 2
we
life
reviewed all
sentences
the evidence
for
that's
just
present
2
today, and
adult
as a
men.
result, we've cleared 23 cases.
Now, not only would the streets be safe again, but Coca-Cola will continue to keep its head office in Atlanta. Everyone's a winner.
We don't have any present plans of bringing any further indictments in Fulton County.
But I guess no matter what the final reports say, there'll always be a nagging doubt amongst the poor people in Atlanta that the conviction of Wayne Williams was more to appease the corporate overlords than any form of justice. Why else would they ignore so much conflicting evidence and unchecked theories?
Theory number 1, the KKK.
The most popular of those, at the time of the murders, the theory held by local law enforcement officers, but also many of the FBI agents involved in the investigation. A theory backed up by documents that were handed over to the FBI by a snitch who reported that they had been planning to kill kids and it had already started. But why wouldn't the FBI take that route? Well,
Which was covering up for him, because the
relationships in
Klansmen are
Atlanta
white.
with the police and the black community were at an all-time low, with reports of governmental corruption in the mayor's office. Crime rates at the highest point in the city's history, a cauldron ready to blow. But also, there were the sexual aspect of the crime that the FBI profilers found it difficult to attribute to the Klan. Yeah, sure, they might throw a couple of homos in a river, but sexually abuse and murder kids?
Theory
It was
number 2,
Atlanta's ghetto's
pedophile
worst
ring.
kept secret that from the mid-70s to the late 80s, that a pedophile ring were operated by one Uncle Tom Terrell, who was involved in child trafficking and a convicted pedophile. His home, known as Uncle Tom's Cabin, regularly hosted pedophile parties. And coincidentally, in the direct vicinity where many of the murdered children were last seen. And it was no secret that Terrell had police and government officials in his pocket who regularly attended his parties.
Government officials attended his parties.
That none of his secrets would ever come back to bite his ass. Because they were all at the bottom of the river. And with Terrell dying in 1989, I guess he took his dirty little secrets to the grave.
Theory 3, organ harvesting.
The coroner report states that several of the children had had their organs removed, fueling the fire in local Atlanta media. To what were a common belief among some African Americans, including activists, that poor black children are regularly harvested for their organs, and with no definitive reason revealed on why the children's organs have been missing. With over 120,000 people in America at any one time waiting for a transplant, it might not be so far-fetched. Atlanta police at the time said the missing organs were more likely Wayne Williams' clumsy attempt at cannibalism.
That was a lie.
Just wild animals. Go figure.
Wayne Williams was convicted by a jury January 6, 1982. He was given 2 life sentences. It is now believed through leaked documents that Vice President Bush put pressure on the FBI to make an early arrest against Wayne Williams. Of course, this was done in an effort to cover up the crimes of the KKK as well as the crimes of high-profile government officials who was involved in child sex trafficking, rape, and organ harvesting. A majority of victims' families believe that Wayne Williams was not the killer of the Atlanta child murders and missing children. The majority of the victims' parents also believe that everything that took place was a part of a larger government cover-up, which it was, clearly. The explosion at the daycare center and the church was never solved. We, of course, know that this was done by the Ku Klux Klan. When have you ever known an African American to blow up anything? Williams was convicted by dog hairs and carpet fibers. Police never explained why several victims had body parts, including their eyes, removed. The majority of news coverage never mentioned the kids had been sexually abused. You wonder why that is. FBI documents show the KKK were the only suspects in killings until Vice President Bush visited Atlanta. So clearly, Vice President Bush Sr. played a very big role in covering for the KKK, as well as covering for the misdeeds of government officials high up in power in Atlanta. High-profile activists, including lawyers, filmmakers, and the victims' families, fought for Williams' release. So many people, including the victims' families, lawyers, and as well as filmmakers, fought to have Wayne Williams released. They totally botched this crime, this whole case. They blackmailed him. They set him up for these murders, which he was not found guilty of. Wayne Williams remains in prison. And many believe the child murderers of Atlanta remain unsolved. Okay, you all, I just want to show you all that documentary before I get into the reading in which I did for this matter. Okay. So I started off with asking Spirit a series of questions, which I got direct answers for each of my questions. I've already did the reading here, and I'm going to report them to you as follows. I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams really behind the Atlanta child murders? I got a direct answer of no. I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams a trained killer? I got a direct answer of yes. In other accounts, in a prison video that was conducted, he did a prison interview. And he had wrote a series of like a biography, a documentation of things, where it was said that Wayne Williams was recruited as a teenager for CIA training and espionage, which included a training, combat training, trained to be a trained killer, trained in spy techniques and so forth. So I asked Spirit about these things. You can find these interviews of Wayne Williams, the prison interviews, online if you would like to look that up. So again, I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams a trained killer? I got a direct answer of yes. Was Wayne Williams just a patsy for government powers that be? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams triggered and programmed to commit the murders? I got a direct answer of no. I asked Spirit, does Wayne Williams have connections and or ties back to the government? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, were the Atlanta child murders and missing children a part of a bigger cover-up for SRA, which is short for satanic ritual abuse, human trafficking, child sex trafficking, sacrifice rituals, etc.? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams recruited for CIA training, espionage for the government as a teenager? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, was the mass murders of the Atlanta children a secret government operation? I got a direct answer of yes. In this reading, I linked, and watching this documentary and coming up with all the evidence and the research I did, I was able to link the Ku Klux Klan, also known as the KKK, to satanic cults, which also links to high-profile government powers that be. So I asked Spirit, was the KKK behind the murdered and missing children of Atlanta, and the government covered it up and used Wayne Williams as a patsy? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, was Wayne Williams framed and used as a patsy? Again, I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, was Uncle Tom Terrell responsible for the kidnapping and murders of the Atlanta children? I got a direct answer of yes, but I also got from Spirit that he did not do so alone, because Tom Terrell was recruited at some point in time by the government, and he was already known as being a child rapist. He was recruited for such. He was also recruited to lure in and the kidnapping and the abductions of children. I also told you all how he hosted parties at his house, which police officers and government officials attended, either for the sale or trade of children, or just the participation in molesting and raping them at these child sex parties, which were hosted by Tom Terrell. So I got a direct answer from Spirit of yes, but he did not work alone. He worked with individuals in power to do so, and it was covered up. So, to get a clear understanding, Tom Terrell was recruited either while at the ending or while he was in prison for when he was convicted before of this, to around the end of that time. Thereafter, he was freely and willingly allowed to abduct children, molest and rape children, kidnap children, and hold children hostage for sale, for human trafficking, and also to host these child sex parties that he held in his home. As I told you before, this was actually no secret in Atlanta that he ran this child sex ring. I asked Spirit, was the powers that be, the government, the Ku Klux Klan, satanic cults responsible for the abduction, murder, organ harvesting, and of the murdered and missing children? I got a direct answer of yes. So not only was the government, high-profile government officials involved in this, police officers were involved in this, Ku Klux Klanmen, which I've already told you who makes up the Ku Klux Klan. High-profile people in power made up the Ku Klux Klan. This is why they were never prosecuted and they were never charged with any crimes. And they all leak back to satanic cults. All of them were responsible for these abductions, for these murders, for the organ harvesting, the many of them that was found without their organs. Okay? I asked Spirit, was the disappearance of children in Atlanta due to a child trafficking sex ring run by those in power? I got a direct answer of yes. Only some of the children whom went missing and was never found again or never heard of again were the children who were trafficked. The ones who were found dead, they obviously wasn't trafficked. They were beat, they were abused, they were raped, sodomized. And for those of you who don't know what sodomy is, that means that they were raped in the butt. Okay. Those children that were found dead, that's what they were used for, or they were killed right away and their organs were taken. The other ones who have never been seen or heard from ever again, those children were trafficked. I asked Spirit, did police and government officials attend the child sex parties that were hosted by Uncle Tom Terrell? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked Spirit, were the children with missing body parts used for organ harvesting? I got a direct answer of yes. I asked, did Wayne Williams kill the two adult victims, Nathan Keita and John Porter? I did get a direct answer of yes. He did kill the two adult guys, but he was not responsible for any of the missing or murdered children of Atlanta. I also have some other notes from Spirit. Wayne Williams was set up because of Bush's orders to the FBI. George Bush Sr.'s direct orders to the FBI when he sent in the 200 FBI individuals into Atlanta, they were sent in for the purposes of covering up for the KKK, for the high-profile government officials that was involved in it was to cover up the organ harvesting, the child murders, the child abductions, the human trafficking, and everything that was going on. They found their patsy. This is the reason why Bush sent in the FBI to cover up this and to cover up everything that is going on. Also from Spirit, President, he was only vice president at the time of all of this, but we later know that he became president, George Bush Sr. He is linked to actually other big high-profile cases that has happened, like the Boys Town situation that took place in Nebraska. That I'll probably cover later. It's clear from Spirit that President Bush Sr., he is directly linked to child trafficking, murders, organ harvesting, and government cover-ups. A lot of which, not just around this the Atlanta child murders and the missing children. So that concludes the reading for the Atlanta child murders and missing children. I do hope that this gave somebody clarification to those crimes that took place in Atlanta back then. This story, this guy, this Wayne Williams, he's actually still in prison right now, all this time later. And they seemingly have set him up for the things that have taken place around this or whatever. However, like I said, he is responsible for the death of those two adult men. However, anybody with any knowledge of the judicial system know that even the deaths of those two men doesn't carry two life sentences. So he still was railroaded, and he still was set up far more than anybody could ever understand. And he still it's still being held over his head that he has some type of connection, some type of link to these child murders and these child abductions, which they have not proven to be true at all. So like I said, you all, even though this is a situation that took place in between 1979 to 1981, 82, around that time, know that human trafficking, sex trafficking, organ harvesting, and mind control technologies and all kinds of things have been taking place for a very long time, well before the 1970s and well after that time, even all the way up to today. And as I tell you all the time, and I'm going to keep telling people this until people finally pay attention, until people finally care and give a damn, until people finally rise up against what is happening. We have 800,000, to this day, we have 800,000 children, not a decade, not every once in a while. We have 800,000 children, estimate, that goes missing every year. Every 365 days, people, 800,000 children go missing. That's only the ones that go missing, that seemingly vanish, go missing. And your government, they play pretend like they're working the case, but they never have any suspects, they never have any leads, they never find a body, they never find these children at all. And then after a while, they just close the case. Or the case just remains cold. When are American people going to be tired of that? When is that answer, that response, going to be no longer acceptable? You are not holding government officials accountable for doing anything. Now, these are the people that brag all the time about all the artificial intelligence they have and all the technology that they have, and you know, those that's in power. You know, these old high up elite Illuminati as individuals, you know, they all see it and they all know it, but they don't see or know a damn thing that they need to see or fucking know. And if they do see it and if they do know it, then this clearly lets you know that they're not doing a damn thing about it, maybe because they are the ones that's behind it. When are the American people going to get mad as hell? We're talking about babies, children going missing. You mean to tell me that you can fund whole operations for your CIA, for your FBI, for your military, for your secret spy agencies and secret security agencies to stalk and harass and to target American citizens, but you can't tell the American people where the hell children vanish to? Just go missing, never to be seen or heard of ever again. And that's just the missing children. There's whole other hundreds of thousands of children every year who are found dead. Dead, people. Kids. And see, in this day and time, they got so many people programmed around here. They got so many people under mind control. They have the power and the ability to trigger people, not only to commit suicide, but to commit homicide as well. Have you not noticed the trending amount of individuals killing children, and this don't bother anybody? You're just living your best life. And it doesn't bother you at all that children are coming up dead and coming up missing every year. You can illegally surveillance people like myself who are targets of the United States government every damn day. But you can't come up with an ounce of evidence as to where all these missing children are. Is it in fact that because you are behind the cover-up of their abductions, of their murders? Is this where their adrenochrome is coming from? Is this how the organs are still being provided? Whether for human cannibalism, or for some filthy rich ass individual that don't want to sit on a waiting list for an organ. When are people going to get mad as hell about this? When are you going to care? You can dislike me all you want to. You can hate me all you want to. But what you cannot do is explain to any damn body where all of these missing babies are. Why kids are being killed on a daily damn basis. I don't care how much you dislike me. Guess what? When you decide to put the hit out on me, when you decide to sacrifice me, I'm going to make sure the entire world knows that the United States government, as well as my low down, dirty, backstabbing family, are involved. So you come on with it. Y'all picked the way wrong one to target. But as long as I'm a target, I'm going to give you a run for your money. And I'm going to put it on everybody's mind. As long as you targeting me, just how many children come up missing. Because while you wasting time, money, and resources watching me, invade and violating me, sabotaging and ruining my life, stripping my privacy and human rights away from me, another child is gone missing. Another baby is being raped. A one is being murdered in cold blood. It ain't an ounce of justification that you can give the American people for that. Somebody gonna tell the truth in a minute. But until you do, just like you watching me, I'm watching you. Peace, love, and light, everybody. Namaste.